Hey guys, welcome back to another Bible in the Backyard episode. We are still working with water, and there's many more lessons with water in them that I can't even fathom to get to right now. Or put it this way, I haven't dug enough. Um, we're with water, but we're also in the book of Matthew. Now, Matthew is the first book of the New Testament. It's also one of the Gospels. Gospels, if you remember, um, hopefully I explained this earlier, but the Gospels tell the story of Jesus' life, and there's four different Gospels. It's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew is the first of the Gospels, and I finished a study over the summer, and it kind of helped explain what this was. Matthew explained it and backed it up with the scripture that's in the Old Testament. Mark is kind of more of a straightforward gospel, and then there's Luke, and then John is one of your more spiritual led gospels. But we're in the book of Matthew, so Matthew's the first book in the New Testament. So if you're in Lamentations, you're not there yet. If you're also in Daniel, you're not there yet. If you're in Jonah, you're not there yet. And then if you go to Mark, you passed it. And if you're in John, you passed it. So, but we're in the book of Matthew, and we're in chapter 8. So chapter 8, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 verses to read with this lesson. And there's a lot to those 5 verses, because it kind of digs at the faith perspective of it. So if you go to chapter 8 in Matthew and you go to the 23rd verse, read the 23rd all the way down to the 27th. And it goes like this. And when he was entered into a ship, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with the waves. But he was asleep. And his disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish. In verse 26 it says, And he said unto them, Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. But the men marveled, saying, What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? Now, if you just want those 5 verses, go ahead, turn it off. If you want me to explain what those 5 verses mean to me, prospectively, and how I interpreted it, listen on. I studied Jonah before I studied this story. This story and Jonah have 2 parallel storylines, but they're 2 different directions. Jonah and Jesus were both asleep in the ship. The difference between the 2 was Jonah was so far away from God and he was running from God and he was away from God that his sleep wasn't bothered. His sleep, he was trying to be quiet. He was trying to stay low key. He was trying to hide. That was Jonah. Jesus was asleep in the ship because he knew where he was. He knew who was in ultimate control, and that was his Father. He knew that. And again, during this whole thing, you see the disciples only seeing what's in front of their face. Like, with us in our lives, we only see what's in front of us. We don't ever really see the bigger picture, as humans, because we are humans. Hello. We don't like to look at the bigger picture. We like to see, like, there's an off can right in front of me. I want to see this. Or my pens, or the camera, or whatnot. We only see what's right in front of us. So we only see the trial that we're going through. We don't see that, oh, this might teach us something, but we'll learn it on the back end. In this story, he just called some people to follow him. He taught a little bit, and then even after this, he'll call even more people to follow him. But the real question comes in verse 26. And the story kind of comes in verse 25. So in verse 26, he says, "Why are ye fearful? Why are you afraid? Why are you afraid? Do you know who you're with? Why are you afraid?" But then there's also another story in verse 25 right before that. And it says, "The disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish." And it kind of, like, in verse 26, it asks, "Oh, ye little faith, why do you have so little faith?" Well, they've seen you, hopefully I study this correctly, please correct me if I'm wrong. I studied this, and they've seen him heal some people. They've seen him preach. But for them in their own lives, they've seen Peter's mother-in-law healed. But in their own lives, they haven't necessarily seen him work in their lives yet. Because sometimes with our faith, we can see different things happen in other people's lives, and we're like, "Oh, that's so great, God's so good, da 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 da." But when it happens in our own life, until it happens to us, or how our faith grows is kind of like a trial by fire. It's like we have to be tested also. So I don't think they've been tested this far. I don't think they've known that their faith can be that strong, or that they don't know that yet. So they're beginning their work with Jesus. So they're beginning this story. This isn't the beginning of Matthew. This is chapter 8. Matthew has over 25 chapters. Like, it has many, many, many chapters. And how the disciples grow along with that. Let me try to find you. It has 28 chapters. So we're 20 chapters before the end of the story in Matthew. Which is interesting. So the disciples are just now kind of following Jesus and seeing what he really can do. But what's so awesome about this whole thing, it's in verse 25. It's not even when Jesus calmed the seas. That's not even the cool part. The cool part's in verse 25. When they go to him and they wake up him. Because they know that he can do something about it. That's the crazy part. That's the cool part. Is that they didn't know what he was going to do. But they knew he could do something. So in verse 25 it says, "And the disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us. We perish. Help us. We need help. The storm is too crazy in our lives. We can't see straight. We can't see over the next wave. We can't see over the next... We don't know if we're going to make it to sunrise." These men who just started following Jesus a couple chapters ago, they're like, okay, we've seen him do something. He can do something about this, so let's go wake him up. And I don't know if they just left him alone and let him sleep, if he would have woken up by himself. Or they would have made it through the night and they would have been fine. But again, I know in one of my earlier episodes we talk about how Peter walked on the water. And Peter could have been a mile away from Jesus. He didn't have to be right beside him, but he started to sink because he started to see everything that was going on around him. Waves that were crazy, and the wind that was blowing, and all of this. And he begins to sink, and he immediately goes, Lord, save me. And what does Jesus do? He immediately is there, and he immediately reaches out his hand and pulls him up. And that's the same thing he does here. He arises, basically tells off the winds and the sea. He rebukes them. He's like, no, you're going to stop. And there was a great calm. The sea was calm. It went from crazy waves and insane winds to the point probably where they couldn't even hear each other talk or hear yourself think, to stillness, to calmness. And that's what God can do in our own lives, is the crazy waves we think we can solve ourselves. We honestly think we can solve ourselves sometimes. Trust me, I still get into this with myself. But we can't. We're no match for what the devil has set up for us. We're no match for the crazy waves and the crazy winds. But Jesus can calm the storm. He can make the storm less frightening. He can be like, I got you. You're fine. You're going to get it. You're going to be okay. He helps us come in contact with people that will help us. And he gives us unwavering peace in a time of panic. And I'm not just talking about during this whole pandemic thing. I'm talking about before and after. It's the little details in our lives. It's getting a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning saying, we can't find your grandpa. He's been missing since yesterday. It's peace in a time of panic. Knowing that, okay, God's got this, okay, you know what to do. He knows what to do. You just gotta have faith, and it's not fun. It's not fun not knowing what's going on and not knowing what's happening. But Jesus gives us so much. He gives us so much. And it only takes a little bit of faith to get started in your life. It really does. It's the little things in our lives. It's the day-to-day. It's being able to wake up and saying that I'm alive again. It's being able to see your family and your kids laugh and smile and give you a hug. It's the little things. That's the unwavering peace in times of panic. When we don't really know what's going on and we're not in control of the situation. It's peace. It's peace because we want to be in control. All of us do. All of us do. Even the people that aren't control freaks, they want to be in control. But it gives you just peace, like assuring sense of calmness. That's like, okay, we're fine. We got this. We got this, and you got it. More, more so than I got it, because I don't got it. Jesus got it. But just remember where you can go to in times of panic or in times where you don't know what your next turn's gonna be. Just say, hey, I need you. Thanks.